I used to run what was called it was basically a teenage responsibility program, okay? And we did it in different schools across the city that I was living in. And I would go to the high schools, and I would set up an arrangement where I could come once or twice a week, and the students that wanted to come, they can come and we can sit and talk, okay? A lot of the times, I started into the school because I had a few clients in the school, because I had clients that were teenagers. And so we would get these clients because of the fact that they would drop out of school. And so they would be referred to us, and we would have to go to their homes, encourage them that they needed to return to school as teenagers. And it was always girls that know that they didn't slept with a man, or they didn't have a relationship with a man or with a male. And then the male ditched them and they're stuck with a child, can't go to school because they're trying to care for the child. So we would get the child into daycare. And so we started these programs in the schools where with the child or the teenage girl could come, put their child in daycare, and then go upstairs and go to class so that they wouldn't drop out of school. So anyway, we started a relationship with these different students. And I realized the stage that they were in, how vulnerable they were, and that they needed encouragement a lot of times, because they would have very good parents. Oh man, very good parents. But the parents couldn't keep an eye on them because society had changed so much. Okay, so this was now at a time where, because the influx of what they're getting over the internet, it was before internet. I'm so old. From the satellites and cable was so different than what you would get on channel 3, 6, 9, and 12. That the parents didn't keep up with all the changes that were happening, and everything was changing so quick in those times. So anyway, I say to you guys that I learned later something, and I'm going to start with that first, and then I'm going to tell you about the nuances that and how it refers back to. Okay, so in our culture, we have a statement or a phrase or a piece of wisdom that says that you give them good etiquette for 7 years. And then you teach them for 7 years, and then you become good friends or companions with them for 7 years, and that gets you to 21, and then they're ready to go out on their own, okay? Or they're fit to go out on their own, or to, fly the nest, as they say. So the first 7 years, of course, is etiquettes. And with us, some of that, or a lot of that, is just basic etiquettes, mannerisms, character, who you should be, what's right, what's wrong, but also, God consciousness. I think that everyone should start at an early age with having a child understand that God is always there. And if you do good, then God is there for you. And if you do bad, then God sees you. And I remember that coming to me at very early ages, KG, grade 1, and people who go to put their children in religious schools, then they get that also. It used to be in public schools. Matter of fact, we used to have to pledge allegiance to the flag, and we always mention God in it, huh? Under God, the one nation, under God, indivisibly, or something like that. So the God consciousness thing was there. Okay, the second 7 years. So of course, that first 7 years is going to be basically, used to be basically under the mom. And so that mom laid down a lot of important foundations. And so that's why you had to choose a good wife, because that's going to be the one that's going to give all those foundations to your children. Nowadays, we put our children into warehouses. We wonder why they turn out the way they turn out. And with a bunch of other children and then we give them to after school nannies, and so we wonder why things turn out differently. It's very important to make sure that the mother is there. Okay, but let's get into the reason why I'm doing this. Okay, so that second stage, which is the stage of what we say alimuhum, or the stage when you give them now knowledge foundations. Okay, that stage and the third stage, those are the two stages you got to pay attention. So that's from age 7 up to age 21. Now it's a whole different level, okay? And during this stage, when you study in psychology, they say that this stage is broken down into 3 stages, which is early adolescence, and then mid-adolescence, and then late adolescence, okay? So early adolescence is from 11 to 14. You hit puberty. Now with us, where we come from, and in these Western countries, unfortunately, and this is why I decided to raise my children outside of the Western countries, is because I had to learn a lot of things, even though I came from a religious family. Because after a period of time, the school closed that we used to be in, and we had to get put in public school, I learned a whole lot of stuff before I ever even hit puberty, and watched a lot of people do a lot of stuff before they hit puberty. So by the time puberty hit, I was kind of aware of what was going to happen. It's very stark difference than what happens in other countries and cultures, like the culture I'm raising my family in now, where they don't have a concept yet. And of course, my children are probably a little different because of what I went through. I raised my children slightly more radical. So they don't have a concept of what puberty is until puberty hits them, my children personally. Okay. And when it hits, then it's like, okay, these are the things that your body's going to be going through. This is the reason why this is happening. Boom, 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 boom. This is the next stage of your life. And this is why you got to pay attention to your education, your God consciousness and this and that, because you're starting into adulthood now, or into young adulthood, you know? So my point is that for most people who I'm talking to, you need to be very aware, because you're getting an influx of, or your child is getting an influx of information through the net, through the satellite, through all those things that we leave our children in front of as a whole, that we leave our children in front of to babysit our children so we can go and live our lives. Whether it's the daycare that you put them in, whether it's the nanny and the nanny's not going to give them the same raising that you're giving them, or whether it's just the worst thing, which is sitting them in front of a screen, whether it's internet screen or a satellite or whatever, they're getting an influx of stuff. So they're already being shaped as to what they think life is going to be. Okay. So during these 3 stages of adolescence, they go into it still kind of seeing everything as, oh, this is right, this is wrong. So this is the early adolescence from 11 to 14. They enter in and still, this is right, this is wrong, this is awesome, this is awful. And that's just how they see things. And that's the reason why in the court system, which I had to learn over time, this is the reason why a child is not held accountable for making a decision, and because their inability to see what the future of that situation will bring. That's the reason why up until 17, even if they commit a crime, unless it's an atrocious crime, they go through juvenile court and they're still safe from adult court until they're 18 years old in most states. Okay. So the point is for us, and the reason why I'm bringing this up is you have to keep an eye on your children. You can't imagine that your children is being raised or have the same innocence that you may have had, and you may not have had any innocence. They're getting even more. They're getting hit from every angle, from things you can't imagine. And then now they're going to school and they're mixing with situations and cultures and environments that's trying to shape them into something that they may not be. And that's the reason why I'm bringing this up. I remember watching when I was growing up, and I was actually working. I shouldn't say I was growing up, because I was actually working at the time at a juvenile, what was it called? A youth advocate program. And it was for students that were teenagers, there were adolescents and teenagers that were coming in after committing a bunch of different offenses. And there was one step before they got imprisoned. And it was this young guy that came through. And I remember watching him, and he was, a bit effeminate. But I remember always watching him and thinking, I didn't think that could happen at such an early age. And I realized that's just how he was naturally. But I also realized the pressure that was around him of people calling him, oh, you gay, you such a so-and-so. And he might have just been a feminine dude. But before you know it, you can see he started to identify to that, because everybody says, so what, you gay? So what, you such so, you gay? So he probably didn't know what gay was when he came in there. But you can believe he left out of there knowing exactly what gay was and homosexual was, and thinking about, is he that or not? So my point is that this influx of things, and that was in the 90s, this influx has been 100-fold now. You have people now going to school with people who identify as gay. And you're talking about young school, and they identify as gay, and they have parents that's gay, and they're being raised by 2 mothers or 2 fathers, or by somebody who considers themselves gay or lesbian or whatever. So you have to watch your child, and you have to talk to your child. You have to talk to your child. You have to sit down and do that thing that I always tell parents should do. You have to sit down and say, they're like, so how was school today? So what's going on? And know the things enough about your child that when you bring up other things, or when there's something comes up, they feel comfortable talking to you. Because if everything goes normal and you ask, yeah, everything was normal there, and then one day you see something's different, then you let them go upstairs, and then you come on up and say, hey, so what's going on? Something's different today. Come on now. Now you can talk to me about whatever. And they'll talk to you if you set a good relationship early. Okay. So just go in such and so, yo, eat some cake. You want some? So what's going on, yo? Why are you looking like that? And they'll tell you. But if you don't have a good relationship and it's just, you do what I say when I say, because I say it, I'm a man, they ain't gonna have any good relationship with you. And the problem is that you got to also have a strong, solid wife or whoever their mother or mother figure is, because sometimes they'll go to the mother figure because that's the more emotional one, the one more emotionally in contact with them or connected with them. And you have to know that she'll come to you and talk to you about it and won't just hide it as something between her and the child because of her love for the child and lack of connection to you. So all this comes with the family structure. If you don't have the family structure right, then things are going to be jammed. Okay. So during this stage, like I said, of adolescence, which is from 7 to 21, there's a bunch of different developments that's going on. You have to make sure that you are there and aware for what they're going on, what's going on in the street that they're encountering. And you also have to lay the foundations and the shaping and cultivation for them to know. And like I said, my key thing, and I say this all the time, you have to have them be God conscious. You have to have them understand the importance of morality. You have to let them know that their body is a temple. That's something that I heard from the older people when I was growing up. Your body is a temple. You have to let them know God does not like ugly. You have to let them know what goes around comes back around again. They used to call it Murphy's Law when we was growing up. Murphy's Law. What goes around comes back around again. The judgment you judge, you should be judged. All those things of what you reap, you sow. Okay, like all these different things that the people used to tell us when we were growing up, you can't just leave that off because society has changed, because those are the things that made us have a consciousness of what we were doing. And if something was strange, we knew that we could or should go to somebody and ask some questions. Okay, so my whole point of bringing this whole thing up is because we just talked about the situation of this man that's in prison, about to get the death penalty. He's identified now as as a transgender. He actually committed a crime. And when you go back into his life, they said what? He had this abuse as a child. He had a lack of foundation as a child. He was done like this, abused by his foster father. They hit him with a stun gun. His foster parent, or I don't know, was the mother or the father, put feces on his face. Like, these things have an impact on children. And those children are mixing with your children. And nobody's safe anymore. Because even when you come home, unless you're watching, you're putting them in front of the worst situation, which is that box that's in the corner or wherever you got it, that they sit when you think that they're safe at home, and they're getting more filth and more cultivation and more mind brainwashing from that box than anywhere else. I remember, and we didn't even have a television when I was growing up. My father threw our television down the steps, the one that we got as a gift from our aunt. When he found out about it, he took it and threw it down the steps outside. When he found out we had it, because we had it in the basement for about 3-4 days, maybe a week. He found out about it, threw it down. So we didn't have a television, but he would bring us up, and he had a television in his room and have VCR on. You guys probably don't even know what a VCR is, young ones, but a video cassette player, a recorder, and he would choose the things that he wanted us to watch and put it on tape and bring us upstairs. And when we watched it, he would ask us, so what do you think about that? So how did that make you feel? You think that's right? Do you think that's wrong? And that's what we have to go through. If we saw anything on television or saw a movie or saw whatever, we already knew. So we knew to pay attention, and we knew to be ready for the question that's coming after. But he taught us how to think. And he would always tell us that anything that anybody puts out, they have an agenda. Whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, whether it's a song, they have an agenda. You have to identify their agenda, know your agenda, and then know if it's an agreement or in disagreement, and why. Everything. And it's true. I've read from scholars, and that's what they say, that the windows or the ways that things come in is through your eyes, through your ears, to your brain, and you have to monitor what comes in. So you have to go through that process with your children. Okay. So if you don't, then you'll see things like I've seen religious children from religious families. And I'm telling you, they went from being dressed in religiosity to girls with girlfriends, boys with boyfriends, boys leaving the house to go live with some grown man, and they only 16 to 17. Then you find out that the dude cultivated them since they was 13 in school as a teacher. The things that I've seen, you can't imagine. And when you look back at it, it all comes down to doing the best you can to have a good relation with your child. So when this stuff start happening, and I mean, I have to say this. I mean, I know girls that were dressed full garb, But the people out there don't have any shyness no more. They come straight on to them. They come straight on to them. And like, it's mind blowing to me. So my advice, get away into a situation where you don't have that stuff. But if you're going to be in a situation where that stuff exists, you got to be vigilant. Got to be vigilant. So anyway, that's my spill for the day. And I hope that it benefits. Keep your eyes open, keep your hearts open, keep connections with your children, because they're the ones that's we are memories to them. What we do and the things that we lay down, they're going to remember, and they're going to give to their children, they're going to give to their children. And if we do it right, then we still got a good foundation. But once we damage or sever that chain of cultivation and education, we don't know what's going to come from it. All right, till next time.